Have you ever wanted to cut in front of a lion? The book we're going to look at today tells you exactly how to do that with the help of one magic word. And it's not please. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Looking Glass World. My name is Aradhana Mathews, and today we are taking a look at this book, Magic Words, which was given to me by HarperCollins. And in this book, I found some pretty interesting tips that I thought I'd share with you today in terms of using magic words to influence both yourself and other people. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're ready, let's go. Have you ever noticed that it's always easier to help someone else through a problem than it is for you to deal with the same problem? But could that have something to do with the words we are using to talk to ourselves? That's what the University of Michigan wanted to find out. And they created an experiment to test this, where they took two groups of people and they wanted to see whether different kinds of self-talk would lead to different outcomes in a stressful situation. So step one was obviously find the stressful situation. So they thought about it, and the universal thought that came to mind was public speaking, because that seems to be just something nobody likes to do. And that meant it was perfect for this experiment. So that's exactly what they did. They got these two groups of subjects and they said, imagine that you're pitching for your dream job. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, stressor number one. Not only that, you're going to be presenting in front of a room full of evaluators. So it's not just a one-on-one conversation, there's multiple people, stressor number two. And you have to convince them that you are the best for this job over thousands of applicants that also applied for this job, stressor number three. And to top it all off, you've got 5 minutes to prepare. Stressor number four. And as predicted, all the heart rates, blood pressure, cortisol levels went skyrocketing and everybody got very stressed out. But before they went down to the task of preparing for this pitch, they were given some instructions. Group one was told you should talk to yourself using the first person perspective. So if you're anxious, you might say something like, why am I so anxious? What's happening to me? How am I gonna deal with this challenge right now, etc. And the second group was told to use language as if you were speaking to another person. So this could be, as simple as a one-on-one conversation. You can do this, or even doing a third person twist on it. So if I was the one taking this test, then I would talk to myself saying, why is Aradhana feeling anxious? What's Aradhana going to do now? Equipped with these instructions, both groups went and prepared for their presentations, did the whole thing. And guess which group did better? The group that used an outsider's perspective. I'm not entirely sure about the science behind this, but broadly speaking, as an outsider giving a friend advice, you're not emotionally involved in the stress. So it becomes so much easier to give that friend advice from an objective and calm perspective. So using the same language, interestingly, creates the same effect, even if you're using it on yourself. So next time you're in a stressful situation or you're facing a challenge, instead of trying to motivate yourself by saying, I can do it, say, you can do it. So in 2010, a study was done on people who were trying to adopt a better, healthier diet for themselves. And the subjects of this study were divided into two groups. Group one was told to say, when offered something unhealthy, they were told to say, I can't eat this. And the second group was told to say, I don't eat this. So they were given those instructions, done all of that, then they were taken to do something completely different. You know how sneaky these experiments are by now. So that was not the real experiment. The real experiment came after, where they were thanked for participating and offered a snack. One option was healthy and the other option was not. And here's where it gets interesting. So the people who said can't in the experiment and were instructed to say, I can't eat this, 75% of people picked the unhealthy snack, which means only 25% were able to resist and choose the healthier option. Now, on the other hand, the group that said, I don't, during the experiment, 50% of them were able to resist the unhealthy snack option and actively chose the healthy snack. And the only thing different between these two groups is one word. That is insane. And what was going on here? So the word can't is typically associated with a lack of agency. It's not very empowering. Think back to your childhood days when you wanted to go somewhere or do something and your parents said no. And then you had to tell your friends, I can't go, I'm not allowed. Can't takes the power away from you, whereas don't gives you the power. When you say, I don't eat this, I don't eat unhealthy food, that is a choice that you made. It's something that is empowering because you're actively choosing to do this. You're not at the mercy of some external forces, which is typically what happens with the word can't. Of course, now I'm going to share my little evil manipulation tricks with you on how to use this with other people. Say you're in a situation where you're invited to a social gathering and you really don't want to go. Say you're making up an excuse and you tell those people, I won't be able to come, versus I can't come. Do you see the difference? I can't come positions you in a much better way because it implies that there's something else that's stopping you. So I'm just going to leave that out there, use it how you will. But that brings us to our final category, which is influencing other people. So the first thing we're going to look at is the perceived correlation between confidence and competence. Believe me, they are not connected, but our brains do this thing where they tend to interconnect them. Let me tell you how with the example of a study that was done in 2004 where subjects were asked to choose between two financial advisors. So the first financial advisor made very extreme predictions, fully confident that there's a 90% chance that XYZ or whatever is going to happen. And the other one had a much more reserved prediction, said something along 70% chances of XYZ occurring. I don't know the details of this, but you get the gist. Guess which one everybody went for? The confident sounding financial advisor. These were predictions. These weren't even like empirical facts. And for all we know, the one who's making the modest predictions might actually be the more competent financial advisor. But the one who made the extreme predictions was way more confident. And so everybody decided he's the one we're going to trust. It makes zero sense. And it tells me that we are really bad at choosing leaders. I think it has something to do with how we respond to storytelling. It's almost hardwired into our DNA, but confident people tell better stories and they're much easier to believe. And now we finally come to the thing that I talked about at the very beginning of this video. If you wanted to cut in front of someone in a line, there is one magic word that you can use and it's not please. So what is that word? We find out now. So in the 1970s, Harvard decided to do a study and just experiment with this and see if language could influence whether you were able to cut in line or not. And they chose the City University of New York as their playground for this experiment. Why New York? Because people in New York, according to them, were known for their unfriendliness. They wanted to test this out on people who would be the most unwilling to give up their place in line. So they chose the library copy machine in the university, in the City University of New York, and where people were lining up to use the copy machine. And here's where they did their experiment. So they had some people come up and say, you know, excuse me, may I cut in front? May I use this machine first? The normal things that you might expect someone to say. And then they had a second group come and say, may I use this machine because, and then they give a reason. May I use this machine because I just have to make 5 copies. And guess what happened? In this supposedly super unfriendly group of people, more than 50% of the researchers who used the word because were allowed to cut the line. Even if the reason that they gave after because was totally redundant. For example, can I please use this machine before you because I have to make copies? I mean, what else will you do there? I don't know how, but it worked. So that is something that you could take with you if you're ever in an emergency situation and you need to cut a line, although I strongly disapprove of doing so. You have the one magic word that apparently gives you a 50% higher chance of being able to do so. And that's some of the tips that I learned from Magic Words that I found very, very interesting. Unfortunately, the first half of this book is far more exciting than the latter half, where we get tips on things like how to tell a story for which you must have emotional ups and downs. No kidding. Credit where credit is due. I did learn some pretty cool things, and if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my full review. With that, we are done. Go unleash the power that you have now of these magic words onto the world, and let me know if you learned something from this and you found it useful. In the meantime, if you're looking for some short, engaging, informative articles, you can head to aradhanamatthews.com, my website, or you can join our community on Instagram at The Looking Glass World. I am also on Threads now, so all of those links are going to be in the description. But other than that, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.